Welcome back. Today's word is about the nature of everything in life. We'll talk about a remarkable explorer who survived incredible odds and difficulties. We'll have a nod to past elections. We have a composer and a piece of his music and a quote. So grab your favorite cuppa, settle in, and let's have a look. Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for November 6th. November 6th is the 310th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 311th in leap years, with 55 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is transitory. Transitory is an adjective that means not permanent, brief, of short duration, tending to pass away, not persistent, temporary. Example sentences could include, their happiness was transitory, fading as quickly as it had come, or youth is a transitory stage between childhood and adulthood, or the beauty of the sunset may be transitory, but it leaves a lasting impression. The word transitory comes to us from Middle English, Anglo-French before that, Latin before that. First known use of the word transitory is in the 1300s. Transitory. And with that, on November 6, 1528, Spanish conquistador Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca discovered what would come to be known as the U.S. state of Texas. He and his crew found themselves shipwrecked on a low sandy island off the coast of Texas, starving, dehydrated, and desperate. The first European to set foot on the soil of the future Lone Star State, Cabeza de Vaca's unintentional journey to Texas had come to be a rolling disaster. A series of dire accidents and Indian attacks plagued his expeditions of 300 men as they explored North Florida. The survivors then cobbled together 5 flimsy boats and headed to sea, which will have been the Gulf of Mexico, where they endured vicious storms, severe shortages of food and water, yet more attacks from Indians wherever they put to shore. Now, I just want to say as an aside, this is November, so they're trying to travel through the Gulf of Mexico at a time of year where they are indeed likely to have encountered some pretty heavy weather because it's still hurricane season. Anyway, with this exploration party, originally of 300, reduced now to about 80 or 90 men, Cabeza de Vaca's motley flotilla finally wrecked on what was probably Galveston Island, just off the coast of Texas. Unfortunately, landing on shore did not end Cabeza de Vaca's trials. Of the 80 or so who had made it that far, only 15 survived the winter. Over the next 4 years, the party barely managed to eke out a tenuous existence by trading with the Indians located in modern-day East Texas. The crew steadily died off from illness, accidents, and attacks until only Cabeza de Vaca and 3 others remained. From the original 300, there were only 4 left. In 1532, the 4 survivors set out on an arduous journey across present-day states of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Captured by Karankawa Indians, they lived in virtual slavery for nearly 2 years. Only after Cabeza de Vaca had won the respect of the Karankawa by becoming a skilled medicine man and diplomat did the small band win their freedom. In 1536, the men encountered a party of Spanish slave hunters in what is now the Mexican state of Sinaloa. They made their way to Mexico City, where the tale of their amazing odyssey became famous throughout the colony and in Europe. Despite the many hardships experienced by Cabeza de Vaca and his men during their northern travels, their stories inspired others to intensify exploration of the region that would one day become Texas. This is the birthday of American composer and conductor John Philip Sousa, born November 6, 1854 in Washington, D.C. Nicknamed the American March King, he's best known for composing military marches and helping to develop a musical instrument named after him, the sousaphone. John Philip Sousa composed more than 130 marches, including classics like The Stars and Stripes Forever, Semper Fidelis, and The Washington Post. He came by his interest in music honestly, as his father was a trombonist in the Marine Band. In an effort to keep young John from running away to join a circus band, he enlisted him as an apprentice at age 13, setting the course for his life. Sousa later became the Marine Band's director, leading it for 12 years under 5 U.S. presidents. In 1892, he left to form his own group, the Sousa Band, which went on to perform around the world, playing more than 15,000 concerts. As I mentioned, he also helped design the sousaphone, a big circular brass instrument that wraps around the player, projecting sound forward in parades. When the U.S. entered World War I, John Philip Sousa, who was by then in his 60s, joined the Navy and donated most of his salary to support servicemen. He kept conducting right up to the end, leading a rehearsal of The Stars and Stripes Forever the day before he passed in 1932 at the age of 77, working right up to the end. Though he's long gone now, his spirit lives on in his music, stirring crowds and marching bands everywhere. John Philip Sousa. Now, elections are typically held in the U.S. in the first week of November. This is one of those between years here, but we'll pause for a moment to recap a few results from the past. Abraham Lincoln was elected the 16th President of the United States on November 6, 1860. A lot of sixes there. 25th President of the United States, William McKinley, was reelected on November 6, 1900, and 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, was reelected on November 6, 1984. In a related item, Jefferson Davis was elected to a 6-year term as the first president of the Confederate States on November 6, 1861. That office was abolished in 1865, though, with the conclusion of the war between the states. And on November 6, 2012, 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama, was reelected to a second term. Y'all be sure and let me know if I missed any. A bit unusual for today's song, we're going to look at one of John Philip Sousa's marches, the Washington Post. It's very likely you've heard it before somewhere or another, and may or may not have known what it was called. Sometimes also called the Washington Post March, this was composed by John Philip Sousa in 1889 and is one of his most popular marches, both in the U.S. and also in other countries. So how does a marching band song come to be named after a newspaper of all things? Well, it is that the Washington Post newspaper had just come under new ownership. Former Postmaster General Frank Hatton and former Ohio Congressman Beriah Wilkins had purchased the paper and were eager to make a splash and promote the paper, so they came up with an idea of an essay contest with an awards ceremony. Looking to go big, they turned to the leader of the United States Marine Band, John Philip Sousa, and asked him to compose a new march for the occasion, and he came through with flying colors, so to speak. The Washington Post March made its debut on June 15, 1889, in a ceremony on the grounds of the Smithsonian Museum with President Benjamin Harrison in attendance. The music took off right away, becoming a sensation not just in America but across Europe. Apparently there was a dance called the two-step that was very popular, and the Washington Post March became the signature tune for this dance, earning Sousa a nickname that would follow him for the rest of his life and beyond, the March King. By the way, the young winners of the aforementioned essay contest were awarded in that June 15th ceremony gold medals designed by local jewelers Galt and Brothers, each one handcrafted with its own unique engraving. I understand Galt's is still in business, specializing in bespoke jewelry in precious metals and gemstones. The Washington Post March by John Philip Sousa. How about that? For today's quote, let's take one from the late motivational speaker Zig Ziglar, who said, "You are what you are because of what goes into your mind." Zig Ziglar. Alrighty, y'all take care. Be good to each other. I'll see you next time. 111th in year. Okay, one more time. Or however many times it takes. And a hearty and grateful shout out to these lovely folks who've bought me a coffee. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to add your name to that list, there is a link in the description where you too can buy me a coffee. Alrighty. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlists in the description. You can find me on BitChute, Facebook, Odyssey, Rumble, YouTube, and X, as well as on a blog page called No Really. No Really. No Really. Consider following my Day in History page on Facebook if you're on Facebook. I also have a Patreon account now, or you can buy me a coffee. All those links are in the description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.